Okay, so we are continuing with the process of respiration, and here in this presentation, we'll be explaining the mechanism of respiration. During respiration, the gill filaments are bathed by an incoming water current, and the flow of this water from the buccal cavity to the pharynx, it is controlled by a pair of oral folds or oral valves. Okay, so we can see over here. So this is the pharyngeal chamber, and the water it moves through the mouth into the buccal cavity, from there to the pharyngeal chamber, and the water entry into the pharyngeal chamber it is controlled by the oral valve. Okay, and the respiratory movements are carried out by the pharynx and associated parts, associated structures. Now, the respiration it occurs in, or the breathing movements it occurs in two steps, that is inspiration and expiration, or inhalation and exhalation. Okay, um, inhalation involves the inflow of water from outside to the extrabronchial chamber. So, water enters through the buccal cavity to the pharynx, and from there through the gill slits to the gill chamber. Okay, extrabronchial chamber, right? And expiration involves the outflow of water from the what you call gill chamber through the bronchial aperture to the outside. So that is the inspiration, expiration. So now during expiration, what are the various phases? Um, the brachiostegal fold over here, it remains tightly closed, okay, of the operculum. The brachiostegal fold of the operculum, it remains tightly closed or pressed against the body wall, okay. And this completely closes up the branchial chamber. Now the branchial chamber is a completely closed chamber. Now the opercula over here, it is raised. Okay, it is raised in the sense it is moved outward, and the gill arches are relaxed laterally by muscular activity. Raising of the opercula increases the volume of the extrabranchial chamber over here. So increase movement of the what you call the opercula outward, it increases the space inside the gill chamber. It increases the volume. And the relaxation of the branchial arches, it expands the buccopharyngeal cavity. Um, and this actually decreases the pressure. Okay, and as a result of which water it moves from into the buccal cavity from outside, and from there it moves into the pharynx and fills up the pharynx. Okay, and when the water moves into the buccal cavity, actually the increased volume of water in the buccal cavity, it will push open the oral valve, and thus the water pushes inside into the pharynx, and from there it enters the extrabronchial chamber through the gill slits. And when the water is moving through the gill slits, what happens is it actually bathes the gills filaments, right? And during this process, while the water is what you call water is passing through the gill slit, water bathes the richly vascular gill filaments, and during this process, respiratory exchange of gases takes place. The dissolved oxygen uh, in the water, it moves from water to blood, and carbon dioxide it diffuses out from the blood to the water. So this, as in this manner, the exchange of gaseous exchange takes place, and the blood which moves out from the gill filaments will have sufficient amount of oxygen. They become oxygenated. Now, what happens during expiration? During expiration, that is soon after the gaseous exchange, the oral folds come close to each other. These are the oral valve. Okay. It comes close to each other and prevent uh, backflow of water. And the water, it actually not only backflow, water cannot enter from the buccal cavity into the pharynx, and similar in the same way, the water cannot move back into the buccal cavity. So it is completely closed. Now what happens is the brachiostegal fold over here, it actually opens widely, right? The brachiostegal fold, it is released from the body wall, and as a result, the branchial apertures, it open widely. Now, along with this change, simultaneously, what happens is the operculum, which had moved outward, will come back to its normal condition. And as a result, the branchial chamber or the gill chamber, extrabranchial chamber or the gill chamber, the volume decreases. Okay. Now, soon the operculum and the branchial arches return to their original position by way of muscular activity, and this exerts pressure on the water. Volume decreases, pressure increases. Okay, and water contained in the extrabranchial chamber, it will move out through the branchial apertures, and the expiration is resulted. So this is how the whole process is completed. That is, water, it moves through the mouth to the buccal cavity, from there to the pharynx through the oral valve. Okay, and once the water enters the pharynx, the oral valve closes. The water from the pharynx will move to the extrabranchial chamber, because there is no other way out, isn't it? So it moves to the extrabranchial chamber, and while it is moving through the gill slit, it bathes the gill filaments. And while it is moving, what happens is, water, it is richly containing oxygen, while the blood is actually more of carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide from the blood, it moves into water. Simultaneously, there is exchange of oxygen, that is, oxygen moves from water to the blood, and gaseous exchange is resulted. The water which moves into the extrabranchial chamber usually contains more of carbon dioxide against the water which was present in the pharyngeal cavity. Now, due to the muscular activity, the operculum and all those things come back to normal, and the branchial aperture opens. The water from the extrabranchial chamber, it moves out. Okay, so this is the whole process, right? Okay, thank you. Next, we have a structure known as air bladder, or it is otherwise known as gas bladder. Even it is otherwise, it has a name of swing bladder. It is located outside the peritoneum, that is in the body cavity of mullet, and it is a closed, thin-walled, gas-filled, distensible. That is, it can actually be stretchable. Okay, sac. It lies above the intestine and below the vertebral column. That is its position. And it contains a gaseous mixture of oxygen, nitrogen, carbon dioxide in various proportions. Its walls are richly vascular and formed of elastic connective tissue, and that is what makes it distensible sac. Then the gas bladder of mullet, uh, it actually arises as a dorsomedian outgrowth of the esophageal wall. Initially, it is connected to the esophagus through a small duct called a pneumatic duct, but later on, this connection is lost and the bladder becomes an isolated and closed sac. And this condition of the gas bladder is known as physoclistus condition. Okay, so what happens is, when the gas bladder it arises, or the development of gas bladder, the air bladder is in such a way that it arises as a dorsomedian outgrowth of the esophageal wall. So it is outgrowth of the esophageal wall, and it is connected to the esophagus through a small duct which is referred as a pneumatic duct. But later during the development, what happens is, this pneumatic duct is lost, or it is completely removed, and esophagus and the bladder, it becomes separated. So the air bladder is now a completely separate, independent, isolated, closed sac. So that is that particular type of air bladder is known as physoclistus condition, and this is what physoclistus air bladder is, the one which is found in the mullets. Okay, but in other fishes we can see it is physostomus, that is, the pneumatic duct is still retained even after its complete development is over. So here in mullet it is physoclistus condition. Now what is the function? The main function of the air bladder is obviously buoyancy, and we can see that when we studied the classification, we saw that air bladder was present in the advanced groups of fishes, isn't it? So here it provides buoyancy. It serves as a float or hydrostatic organ. When it gets gas filled or inflated, it helps in buoyancy, or it increases buoyancy. And when it is deflated or empty, the buoyancy decreases. And this is how the what you call the position of the fish is actually maintained, or it is positioned. Okay, so by adjusting the level of the gaseous content in the air bladder, the fish can either float, or it can move down or sink. Okay, or it can maintain a particular position at a desired or preferable depth. So this is how it maintains the buoyancy. Okay, so you can see the where the air bladder is located. Okay, it is above the intestine and below the vertebral column. This is the vertebral column. Okay, and why it is associated with the digestive system? Because it is actually an outgrowth uh, of the esophagus. Right. So this is the structure. Fine. Thank you.